Go ahead. You're good.
Okay, welcome everybody. This is the formal meeting of the Northern Michigan University Finance Committee. I would like to call the meeting to order. And at 5:07, sorry for the delay. We were having some difficulties getting people assembled here, but we did that. And so I apologize to anybody who was waiting for the 5 o'clock start time. We have, let the record show, we have a full attendance from the committee. We have trustees Haveman and trustee Mahaney, as well as I think most of the other board of trustee members are also in attendance today. So welcome everybody. And we will get started. The first, well, let me add one housekeeping thing. Since this is a formal meeting of the committee, only committee members can participate in the discussion, and obviously others are welcome to listen in and to the discussion. So with that, Bob or Jim, is there anything relative to the agenda that you want to change, add, or are we all good to get rolling?
Oh, good.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. The first order of business is the external audit, and I think Gavin and his team will walk us through that. And this will require a motion when we get through with this, just so the members know. Gavin?
All right, thank you, Steve. Yeah, we recently completed the audit for our fiscal year 2019-20, and we have the crew here from our end that oversaw it, Jamie Beauchamp, our controller, Rebecca Schneiderhan, our assistant controller, as well as we have the partners at the audit firm that oversaw the audit, Mr. Steve Peacock and Joshua Sullivan. So I'm going to turn over to Jamie, Josh, Rebecca, and Steve to walk through the financial statements and the audit report.
Jamie, you or me first?
Go ahead, Steve. You go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. Well, good evening, everybody. Hello from Traverse City, Michigan. Hopefully everything up wherever you are. Hopefully there's snow in the UP. We all need snow for snowmobilers and our commerce to continue. So hopefully you guys are getting snow. We don't have anything here. So I know it will be here eventually, and I'm sure you guys do as well. So as Gavin mentioned, my name is Steve Peacock. I'm an audit partner in the Traverse City office of Raymond. Accompanying me is Josh Sullivan. He's another audit partner that works in the higher ed group with me in the Traverse City office. So we are going to kind of talk a bit about the audit report for Northern Michigan University for the year ended June 30th, 2020. I believe everybody has a copy of the financial statement. Is that accurate, Gavin?
That's correct.
Okay. We've gone through this with a committee last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. We went through a lot of the details of footnotes and the minutia in the financial statements. So we're going to talk today from a high level. However, if anybody has a question as we're going through this, by all means, do not hesitate to interrupt Josh or I, and we will be happy to address your question. Everybody knows COVID has taken its toll on many different businesses around our fine state and our country, and the public accounting is no different. We have had to learn how to audit remotely, which we figured out how to do that pretty doggone quick. And the staff, the management team at Northern was very, very well prepared for this transition, and we were able to complete the audit for the university pretty doggone seamlessly in the virtual environment. So our hats are off to your team of management folks at the university, because not everybody was able to transition to this as efficiently as Northern did. Number two, the single audit, or the audit that is over your expenditures of federal dollars, is not complete yet. The federal government issued guidance for the CARES Act funding and other federal stimulus funds late to get it to the auditors. So we are in the process of wrapping up that audit. That will be concluded sometime after the first part of the year. So the document that you have in front of you is the financial statements of the university, and these are going to be the ones that will be submitted to the state, and you will be in compliance with the state requirements once the board approves the document. And again, the single audit will be issued just as soon as the guidance is finalized and all of our testing is complete. We are not anticipating any issues in your single audit or in the audit on the federal expenditures. So if we had issues, you would know about that long before now. So we are anticipating a clean report for that audit. If you look at on the financial statements, the first letterhead opinion that has the Raymond logo on it, it is our independent auditor's report. Everybody on this call is capable of reading that, but I'll just kind of give you the cliff notes of that report. It talks about the financial statements that we were engaged to audit, which is the June 30th, 2020 financial statements for NMU, along with comparative information for 2019. The opinion is an unmodified or a clean opinion, and that is the gold star. That is the highest level of assurance that auditors can place on financial statements. So from the audit perspective, you're in good shape, and the financial records and the financial statements that follow the audit report are in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles, and they are materially stated accurately. So not to say there's a few bucks here and there that might not be in the right account, but the report talks about the materiality of the financial statements, and in its most material sense, the financial statements are properly reflected. So that's a good news to deliver to a board, especially in a year of COVID and some of the changes that we've had to make. You guys have traditionally had an unmodified opinion, so it's not anything new for you guys, but things are different nowadays under the current situation we find ourselves in. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Josh. Josh has some highlights to talk about in the financial statements, and then when he concludes with that, we will be available for some questions and answers. Take it away, Josh.
Great, thank you. Nope, thanks, Steve, and thank you to the board and management at Northern Michigan University. Like Steve said, I'm just going to hit real high level on a couple of the financial statements and not go into all the footnotes and the detail there unless somebody wants to ask me a question in regards to that. So on page 20 of the financial statements that you have in front of you is the statement of net position, or sometimes also referred to as the balance sheet, listing out your assets, liabilities, and net position. Overall, total assets of the university were up to approximately $2.5 million from the prior year. Total liabilities down approximately $3.4 million. And then overall, your net position of the university up approximately $7.3 million. And the next statement will go into kind of what makes up that increase in net position. So moving forward to page 21, you'll see total operating revenues at the top of the page, up approximately $4.7 million from the prior year. That's mostly in your student tuition and fees. Overall, operating expenses remained fairly flat, only up around $400,000 from the prior year. The next section down, your non-operating revenues, this is where you're seeing some bigger fluctuations. State appropriations, as many of you know, were cut by the state in 2020 or for fiscal year 2020. The federal government did come in with some replacement funds for those. However, due to the timing of those replacement funds, those will not be recognized as revenue until 2021. So you'll see that coming in there. And down a couple of lines, the higher education and emergency relief funds as part of the CARES Act. There is some funds that were recognized in fiscal 2020 of about $3.5 million. There is a good footnote in footnote A that talks about the risks and uncertainties and some of the effects that COVID had on the university. So in footnote A, you'll be able to see that discussion, and it talks about these CARES Act funding as well as the replacement funds for the state appropriations. Down a couple of lines also, I think it's important to note the investment income of the university of $6.5 million this year, $5.6 million in the prior year. There was, when COVID first hit, there was a big dip in this income, and luckily it came back before year end. The markets came back pretty strong, and you recognize 6.5 million in investment income for the year. Overall, an increase in net position of just under $7.3 million for the fiscal year, to bring you to that net position of 221.6 million. The next page is your statement of cash flows. I'm not going to go into great detail on that, but just breaks it down, showing you where the university used and was provided cash. Overall, a net increase in cash of about 8.6, just under 8.6 million for the year, to bring your total cash at year end of right around 29.5 million. Like I said, I'm not going to, unless you guys would like, I'm not going to go into detail on the footnotes themselves. We've already gone into those in detail last week in our meeting. So at this point, I'll open it up to any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Steve and Josh. Appreciate that. And Trustees Haney or Haveman, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, but I have a comment. Many of us look at a lot of financial statements, and I just want to congratulate Gavin and his team, and I think the audit confirms it, that we have an exceptional group that's working on our finances. I mean, good financial statements don't happen automatically. They happen because somebody's watching over it, looking at it, making tough decisions, and so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Jim. I do have a great team working with me. That's for sure.
I would just echo what Jim said. Great job by the team. Northern probably has the, for its size, one of the strongest balance sheets in the nation, and that's so important these days. So great job. I also wanted to just mention that the Finance Committee had the opportunity to meet with Raymond, the folks from Raymond that are on the call, along with Gavin's team, and review these financials, the draft financials, in great detail a couple of weeks ago, and all my questions were answered there. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. And yeah, that was fun when we went through it in great detail, especially the footnotes. I found that to be a lot of fun. But anyways, I did want to just mention one thing, which I know you guys talked about. Steve, you might have mentioned this, was that this unmodified statement, and I don't know if you use this terminology, but that's kind of the gold standard when you get into these kinds of things, and we've achieved that with getting an unmodified statement. I just want to make sure everybody on the board understood the significance of that. Since we're not CPAs, Chairman or Trustee Mahaney does this stuff every day, but I don't, and so I learned a lot in the process, and also I learned what a good team we have, and what a great job they've done with our finances.
Yeah, unmodified is the gold standard. If we had to have special issues that were disclosed in the report, it becomes what they call a modified opinion. So being that there were no modifications, that's where you back into the unmodified language for the report.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, we do need a motion and a second to send this to the board. So
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
And I'll support it.
okay, and the vote then will, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Say aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. And thank you for the presentation and for all your work on this.
Thank you as well, and we will sign off so you guys can get on to more current activities for the university and your finance committee. So you guys enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we will chat again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Josh.
guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Now.
Okay, the next next item on the agenda is the budget, and I think Gavin's gonna give us an update. There's no action needed on this, but it is an update, and Gavin will provide that. Gavin?
Yeah, so far, we passed our budget, I think the last meeting, we've had a number of them this year. But we've been monitoring our activities so far through the fall. And right now, we look at a big thing we track is our primary revenue line items, tuition and fees, dining services revenue, residence hall revenue, apartment revenues. And right now on each of those items, we're at or above our targets for each area of revenue. Tuition's up about 500,000 above budget in the fall. We also issued additional scholarships, which pretty much offsets that increase in revenue. So it means we're pretty much on target for the year with tuition revenue. So that's a very positive sign. We've talked about earlier, when we look at enrollment is that for winter, that'll be the challenge that we need to watch as winter semester starts to roll into place. We'll monitor that closely. As you recall, we were down about 4.2% overall in enrollment this year. So as long as we stay in that range, which we're trailing that a little bit right now, we'll be okay. But again, that'll be something we monitor as we move into the winter semester. But as of right now for fall, we look like we're in pretty good shape.
Any questions of Gavin regarding the budget?
I'd just like to know, Gavin, I thought the color codiness on the graphs was really clever. So I appreciate that. I haven't seen that before.
Oh, okay, great. Great, yeah. And then, we gave you a further detail on a scorecard thing, but that's, we try to keep track of that, and Matt's the one who helps me put this together every meeting, and it's something him and I track regularly, so.
Yeah. You don't see any outlier there, to use that word? You don't see any outlier?
No outlier yet. I mean, obviously the year's not quite half over, but we're in a pretty good, I like that we're in good shape right now. I feel good about that. So that's all I had on the budget, unless there's other questions.
Hey, Gavin, one question, and this really it deals with the federal, what's going on at the federal level. What are we hearing in terms of potential, dollars coming to the feds, like another CARES package?
Yeah, I haven't heard a lot on the details on what's going to come. And I've been watching the news today, and things are getting a little icy on that one. So I don't know where it's going to end up. I know there's questions on how much would go to the states. I haven't heard a lot on the education side this time around.
Okay.
That money was helpful, and as you know, in transitioning for fall, because we used a lot of that for getting the campus ready for COVID. And good news is we have a lot of things in place for the winter semester, just from what we did in the fall. But there'll be additional costs that we incur as we plan on doing the same amount of testing, actually more testing in the winter semester. Test everybody on the way in, and then we're enhancing the monitoring of testing throughout the semester. So we'll have some additional costs that we do incur in that, and we're building that in for the winter semester.
Good, thank you. Bob, do you have any questions, comments?
No, sir.
Okay, we can move on then to the next item, which is facilities, and Gavin is going to handle this one as well. And just so everybody knows, this is an update, and there's no action needed in terms of a motion. So, Gavin.
Yeah, we gave you the final draft that we said we would of the. I don't know if that'll show up on my screen, but it's the big facilities book that is our 5-year facilities plan that we submit to the state every year. We had it prepared, except for some of the items that we submit to the state for the HIDE database don't get completed until after the date in which we had our last board meeting. So there was a few tables we just had to update some numbers on. We completed that, and I said that I would bring back the final draft just for you guys to have. You guys did approve us moving forward with submitting that to the state, which we did within the time requirements that they gave us. So we're in compliance with that step. That's basically just for information only.
Okay, any questions?
It's a lot of work. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
What does the state do with that, Gavin? I mean, what happens to it once it goes down there?
They do have some staff that actually read through some of it. It's just a requirement, but when you get into state capital outlay projects and things like that, is that they take a look at what you submitted, because we include those draft of those projects. And then when we do have projects that exceed, I think it's $3 million level now, we need to ensure that we go back to the state for approval on those. So there's different things that they do for a compliance perspective on it. But a lot of it's more information. And then as we get ready for capital projects, it's easier to just refer to the documents that we've already previously provided them, so they have some background on it. It also helps identify the needs on the campus, really, you know, because we go through basically an entire inventory of all our facilities, and you know, back deferred maintenance and everything else is included in the document. So it's pretty all encompassing of the entire campus.
Good. Thank you. The next item is our purchasing policy, and Trustee Haveman was the force behind this. And so rather than try and explain this, I'm going to have him explain this and the genesis of it and what we're trying to accomplish and what we have. So, Jim, do you want to take over?
Gavin, can you put that motion up on the screen?
Oh,
If not, if people have it in front of them, that's just as good as well.
Okay.
But
yeah, I don't know if I can or not.
okay, don't worry about
Okay.
it. This basically, this is something that the finance committee has kicked around for some time, and I appreciate the opportunity to present it. We talked about it at one of our last meetings, and I thought the committee and others had some good wording suggestions to bring to it. So I drafted and tried to incorporate what I heard what people say, and then it went through the sieve of Gavin and our legal people, and and this is what we came out with. And basically it just affirms, you know, we get $37 to $41 million a year from the state. And what we're saying is that's an investment in the UP, and that we just want to continue to be a good purchaser and neighbor of the people in the Upper Peninsula. And I think Fritz and others really listed the amount of vendors from the UP that support and we purchase from, and that we suggested, and I think it came from the administration, that maybe annually we should celebrate it and publish it so people in the UP can see the role that the Northern Michigan University plays in the economy of the UP. I think this is something that invests UP and the economic people would feel comfortable with. And I think it also sends a message to what I think are going to be an increasingly number of vendors who are going to be working out of the Upper Peninsula, because it's got a good work climate. It's got a tremendous opportunity to hire Northern graduates, as we see with many different companies right now. And I think this also sends a message that we want to be a partner. So this basically says we're committed to the economic success of the vitality of the UP for solicitation of vendors and suppliers. When feasible, we should include such services from Michigan's Upper Peninsula areas in the award. Northern Michigan purchasing process at its discretion may select Michigan Upper Peninsula vendors and suppliers, and that Northern Michigan should annually communicate public recognition that clearly demonstrates the university's continued commitment to the economic sustainability of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. And I would like to so move that.
Bob, want a second?
Yes, I would delightfully second that motion.
And then now we have the motion. Is there discussion? Bob, do you want to add anything? I want to add a couple comments, but not what you have.
I just want to say that as someone who's done business in the UP for decades, and it has familiarity with a number of the businesses that rely on Northern Michigan University for much of their sales, I think that this is a very important a motion, and I'm really delighted that we're taking this action, not just as a finance committee, but hopefully tomorrow as well. For many UP businesses, Northern Michigan University represents their largest customer. or the potential to be their largest customer. And to see these dollars wherever we can, going back to Jim's point about state dollars coming up to the UP, and if we can spread those dollars across the UP where it makes financial sense and doesn't put the university in any disadvantage, I'm all for that. So thank you, Trustee Haveman, for leading the way on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just echo that, Jim, for all your work you've done on this, and would just point out to everybody that's participating today, we're working you right up till the end. You only got a few more hours on this board, and you're still getting policy passed, and you're still working right till the end. So, I appreciate that, but seriously, the other major policy that was actually came from you was one we did recently too, was the UP scholarship fund, which we set up, a perpetual fund for UP scholarships. That coupled with this, I think it's very significant, and you'd be commended for all your work to try and to integrate that relationship between the university and UP and the business community and the community in general. So I appreciate it. I'm happy to support this, and hopefully the full board will tomorrow. So thank you. And with
Thank you,
that, we have a motion
Chairman.
pending, and all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Congratulations, Jim, and great work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the next item is an update, only no action needed, dealing with our liquor license. And Gavin, I think, has got an update.
Yeah, and as you know, we'd been working on getting a liquor license moved to the Wildcat Den. And after a long process, November 19th, we did have it approved for the Wildcat Den. So when we finally get back to in-house dining, we'll be able to serve beer and wine inside the Wildcat Den. So after a long, hard process and a lot of people involved with that, obviously Deanna was a big help. Chair Young was a big help on that and making it happen. And I think the chair wanted to recognize another individual that also was a significant help on that.
Yeah, I would just point out, and unfortunately, Jim, you're going off the board, but Gavin, I think, is going to open a tab for us there at that Wildcat Den for us. But maybe we have you up for that, and we'll take advantage of that. But I did want to mention one other person. I mean, Representative Cambenzi she's the one that introduced the bill, kind of shepherded it through, and of course Deanna played a role in all this as well. But she was we call him our horse in Lansing, is what we say, and she got this done from the inception to the end. Got it signed by the governor. Then of course we had COVID hit, and that kind of messed up our plans. We'd hoped to have this in operation well before it is, but as it turns out, that's not the case. But we're ready to do it. One of the things I would like to do, Gavin, at some point, just given Representative Cambenzi's help on this, is maybe get some kind of picture with her and you and whoever, and Fritz, maybe in the Wildcat Den, and just recognize her efforts on this, because on its face, this doesn't look like it's a difficult thing, but this was not an easy bill to get passed, and it passed very, very quickly. So I just want to recognize her. So.
And I want to thank Deanna for her help on that. She was immensely helpful on getting that through. So.
Yeah, she was calling me frequently. That was back when I was still working. So she was calling me a lot about that bill and riding herd over it. So Deanna, congratulations too for all your help. Okay. The next item, I believe we have to go through a couple of motions here before we can get to it. So Trustee Mahaney.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this motion deals with a matter involving my company-owned Viridia Group, and so I would ask that I be recused at this time from the discussions and vote.
Okay, and as I understand it, we need to vote on that motion without Bob. So the motion would be that he recuses himself and then excuses himself from the meeting. And I would make that motion.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Bob, I think what we're gonna do logistically is, Kathy, do you want to explain what we got to do here? So we don't lose Bob?
I'm going to put Bob back into the waiting room, and once the discussion is done and you're ready for him to come back, I'll put him back in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Bob. We'll be back with you in a minute here. Okay, we can go ahead, Kathy. Is that
All right.
okay? Gavin, do you want to talk about the motion?
Yeah, for a little bit of time, Fritz and I have been looking at having a presence for Northern and downtown Marquette, and we've been looking for opportunities there to do activities. And part of what we're looking at is some public service / economic development activity with some groups, as well as academic. And other space we'll be potentially looking at down the road include NMU Information Center and retail. But part of the property we're looking at could include a Viridia group. And so we wanted to make the board aware of that and ask for the authorization to negotiate potential leases for commercial property. Initially, it'll probably be around 1,800 square feet, but then could expand to 4,000 square feet, depending on how much activity we move downtown. So we felt like we should come to the board to talk about that and get approval to do that before commencing forward.
Thank you, Gavin. And just to that point, since it is Viridia, legal counsel has looked at this and I mean, beyond Bob recusing himself, we're passing the smell test here on all fronts.
Any document we'd have legal review on before we submit it for a final recommendation.
Jim, do you have anything?
No, I think it's great. And I remember Fritz talking about wanting to be downtown 3-4 years ago, and Gavin as well. And I think it makes some sense to have some presence down there. And I'd be happy to second this or to move this motion, Mr. Young.
Okay, and I think just Gavin, for those on the line that haven't been involved in this, but the retail space would be a classroom setting in one area of downtown, and potentially maybe some retail space, or maybe in the same space, a classroom and retail.
Right now, we're looking at probably some classroom and sort of public service, economic development involving an area on campus that we would be moving downtown, combined with other economic developers into a space. And then separately from that, we're looking at the opportunity to have an information center and retail space, mainly to sell like NMU sweatshirts and t-shirts and stuff. And so that would probably be more closer to summertime, but the piece for the academic public service would be in the shorter term. And that's probably around 1,800 square feet of space that we'd be looking for. Basically, would have a classroom, office, and a space for some student labor down there too.
And then would the gear, the NMU gear part of this, would that be in conjunction with Barnes and Noble, or how would that?
Yeah, we're looking at that. We've been talking about that with them, so that hasn't been finalized yet. So that's something we're working on.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it increases the visibility of Northern downtown, not just with the classroom, but the retail space, and people walking around can buy some NMU gear. So I think it's exciting stuff. So, and it does get us to the point that Jim raised, that something Fritz talked about, was getting us some visibility downtown, which is something we've been talking about for some time. So,
and part of it, we'd want to have our signage downtown on the main roads, so they can see Northern's name as they drive in. So that's a big part of it. We haven't had that in a while. We used to have that. Many of you have been to Marquette or live in Marquette, and we had that big railroad trestle that had Northern Michigan University,
That's right.
Marquette, Michigan, home of Northern Michigan University, and so we
Right.
want to get Northern's name downtown again. I think that would be a big factor. And Fritz has talked about that, I think, since he arrived here. So,
Yeah. Great, exciting stuff. So, do we need to read this motion, Gavin? Or?
yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
The recommended is, well, it'd be a special action item. That the Board of Trustees, Northern Michigan University approve Northern Michigan University administration to negotiate potential leases for commercial properties located in the downtown Marquette area with commercial property owners, including Viridia Group and its affiliates.
Thank you. And Jim, you said you would make that motion?
I will. I'll make that motion.
And I'll
Special
second it.
action on
And I'll second it. And all those in favor say aye.
it. Aye.
No, all those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And thank you, Gavin, for your updates. And if we could get Bob back in, I did want to spend a couple minutes on an item before we break up, if we could, Kathy.
Oh, it's like magic, isn't it?
Wow,
There he is.
that is amazing. Good work. Good work.
I see all of you.
I just wanted to say a couple of things on a couple of fronts. First, this may be my last meeting chairing the Finance Committee since we're going to have new committees next year. And I just wanted to thank Gavin and Deb and the team there for all the support that you've given me personally and helped me through this year. I remember when at the time Chairman Mitchell had approached me and asked me to serve as Finance Committee, and I talked to Bob and talked to Jim, and they said, hey, it's no big deal, man. You have 3-4 meetings a year, and it's really not that heavy of a lift. Well, then we have a global pandemic breakout, and we're meeting about every week. We're talking constantly, and so it's been a tremendous experience for me, and it's really helped me forge some great relationships, not just with Fritz and his team, and Gavin and his team, but with Bob and with Jim, because we spent a lot of time talking about things. And where there were some very dark days way back, and you all know this, back in March when this was all going down, and we didn't know where this was heading. And Gavin and I had many late night conversations about worst case scenarios that make you not sleep for about a week after you talk to Gavin. So I avoided talking to him during that period if I could, but just kidding. But it's been a great experience. And Jim, I appreciate everything you've done on this board as well as on this committee. I mean, you've done yeoman's work, and I talked about a couple of things that you did here at the end, but that is no way indicative of your record of supporting this university and trying to make it a better place on so many different fronts beyond the Finance Committee. And you will be missed. And I've been lucky to have you to serve with, particularly in this capacity, because I could learn from you and Bob and others on the board as well, but particularly you two because of the Finance Committee. So I just wanted to recognize you and your efforts, and I wanted to give Bob a chance to say anything he wants to, and of course we'll give you a chance to get in the last word. So Bob.
Well, I'd say first of all, it's Steve. I guess I did kind of understate the workload at the start of the year, but this has been quite a year, and I commend you. I commend Gavin and all the team, everybody that was involved in finance this year. Really, really difficult, challenging year. Tough decisions had to be made. I thought at the end of the day, the way we were able to bring our diverse views together and come up with solutions. I think on every issue that we faced this year, there were varying viewpoints coming into it, different ideas, and we had a chance to respectfully kick those around. And at the end of the day, come up with probably better solutions than any of us would have come up with otherwise. So thank you to all involved. Steve, I thought you did just a wonderful job under very trying circumstances chairing this committee. Any committee that I'm on is not easy to chair. So, Jim, I'm going to save most of my comments for tomorrow, but I'll just say that Jim Haveman has made me a much better board member.
Thanks, Bob. I agree with that totally. Jim?
Well, I'd like to thank the Finance Committee, and I had a couple years to be the chair, and it was nothing like you had to face, Chairman Young, and my thanks to you for tolerating me and the questions and the suggestions. If I take a look, and I just want to echo what Bob said, many of the decisions we had many Ys in the road, and we took collectively and found some consensus, and I think were good decisions. And we're used to roller coasters, and we had a roller coaster year and came out of this thing pretty okay. And the fact that we were able to share it not only with future scholarships, but also share it back with the faculty and staff that helped us have this successful year is really a salute to everybody. When I take a look at the contributions of the state of Michigan to Northern and higher education, it's a tribute to the legislature and to the governor that they continued that funding. I mean, we did not anticipate that, and it happened. And it happened because of a lot of hard work and a lot of outcomes that we're pretty proud of. So I just want to thank everybody, and we have a busy day tomorrow, and let's get on with it.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. And are there any housekeeping issues, Kathy, in terms of when we're done here? I mean, we log in tomorrow like we normally do at the board meeting, and so we're done here. Okay. All right. If there's no further business to come before the Finance Committee, I move the committee adjourn. And thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.